don't want to play football. I don't understand the rules of the game.
If you're listening to this on anything that isn't YouTube, I'd like to give a big shout out to Billy Tubes, aka Bailey McComas, and Ty Schmidt from the Pat McAfee Show for helping us get this out onto every podcasting platform. Big shout out to you guys. Go listen to their show. It's a lot better than ours.
Hey, my name is Brady.
And I'm Josh.
And this is We Could Have Been Doctors, podcast, non-unioners guide to the Steelers. Josh, I couldn't tell you, I couldn't remember what your last name is, but I could tell you that the Steelers were the first 6 seed to ever win the Super Bowl.
I can't remember the last time I ate a fresh-baked cannoli, but I do know that the Steelers lost by 18 points to the Seattle Seahawks in 1981. Our largest blown lead was 18 points.
It feels like our largest blown lead is going to be 11-0.
That one's too soon, brother. Too soon.
So before we get into our Steelers, let's talk quickly about what the rest of the playoff picture is looking like. We only have 3 weeks left, so we're going to spend most of the time focusing on the Steelers, but it's good to see where the rest of the NFL stands. Just as we fell out of first place, the first and second place teams in the NFC have also switched. Green Bay is now the 1 seed, New Orleans 2, Los Angeles Rams 3, Washington football team is 4th. So just to be clear, we lost to a division leader last week.
Like rubbing icy hot in an open wound.
Seattle Seahawks in the 5th seed at 9-4, Tampa Bay at 8-5, Cardinals at 7-6 in that 7th seed, and the Vikings and Bears are 1 game out. Looking out on the outside looking in. And then in the AFC, we have the Chiefs pull into first place due to our loss to the Bills. Speaking of the Bills, they're the 3 seed after us. Tennessee at the 4 seed, Browns, Colts, Dolphins rounding up the 5, 6, 7 spots, with the Ravens, Raiders, and Patriots with a realistic chance looking on the outside. So as of right now, if the playoffs were tomorrow, we'd be playing the Tua-led Miami Dolphins at home. That's where things stand right now. Josh, any thoughts on the NFL picture?
Hypothetically speaking, I think this Dolphins team would clean the floor with this current Steelers team after those 2 losses. The way we're playing right now, and the way the Dolphins have been playing, I think that Tua team would absolutely just wipe the floor with us.
Oh, Josh, ever the optimist. I love to have.
I mean, did you watch that Chiefs game? The Chiefs are supposed to be the best team in football, and they only won by 3 points. The Dolphins, if they could have converted 1 or 2 of those field goals to touchdowns in the red zone, that's a 12-2 Chiefs instead of a 11-2 Chiefs instead of a 12-1 Chiefs.
The only 2 teams that are better in the NFL than the Pittsburgh Steelers are the Washington football team and the Buffalo Bills, and it's temporary.
Amen, brother.
Dolphins and Chiefs haven't beaten us once yet. One time.
That's true. We are undefeated against the former Super Bowl champs.
So I think that's, kind of gives us an idea of where the NFL stands. Josh, what do you think are our points of concern, things that we need to talk about the Steelers coming off another tough loss against the Bills?
See, going into it, I was pretty confident in the defense to hit home.
Confident as in like dancing on the logo before the game starts?
Yeah, confident as in like putting out, I think the kids call them TikToks onto.
Oh man, I love suppressing the Hong Kong people. It's great. Juju loves suppressing the people of Hong Kong.
Yeah, got to get all the 15-year-olds on that app riled up dancing on the logo. That type of confident. I was as confident as Juju dancing on the logo that our defense coming into this Bills game was good. Like there is nothing that we have seen that like even against the loss against Washington that was like, okay, our defense is kind of falling off or whatever. But in the Bills game, I felt like we weren't getting pressure at all. Like I don't know if you had that same feeling. I understand we're missing Bud. Not having Bud is really hurting. Highsmith also kind of went out for a couple plays. He's injured. I think he's now on the IR as well. So we're going to have some more issues there. Again, linebacker depth is very thin, but just if it felt like Josh Allen had all the time in the world to just sit there, pick apart the secondary and find Diggs on any route in the route tree that they wanted to run with him.
Yeah, I mean, we're depleted at the linebacker position, and that has like a trickle down effect to the entire team. I mean, last game, I get the thinking, but we made Williamson the Mike, and it's because he played the Bills already twice as a Jet earlier this season, so I get that. But without Spillane, and going further back, without Shazier, and without without
Can't forget Bush. Can't
guys,
forget
without Bush, all those pieces, we're losing some of that identity on defense because our secondary is solid, but it's not. It was great because they didn't have to remain in coverage all that long because of the pressure that we were getting. Cam Hayward is still playing very great. Tuitt is still playing at an elite level, but it's not enough. We need more.
Yeah, we've really gotten hit with the injury bug. So it's hard to judge this defense because we were also without Joe Hayden, which was a big miss. Like you could tell they're throwing at Nelson. They're throwing at Nelson all dang night. I felt so sorry for that guy because he drew the Diggs coverage, which would have traditionally been Joe Hayden's coverage right there, because there's no way we would have not had Joe Hayden follow Diggs across the field. And it's just credit to Nelson. He didn't give up more than what he did give up. I know he slipped on a couple plays and he just wasn't there the entire time, but it's not looking good when it comes to injuries. So just looking up, we also lost Matt Filer, our offensive tackle. Apparently he has a pectoral injury and he is on IR. So I believe he might be done for the season. We might get him back for a playoff run. Potentially not.
That doesn't pair very nicely with the fact that Dotson and Chucks both have injuries as well. So the line, what was formed, Ben got sacked for the first time in 6 games. And I think that our line might be starting to crumble right now.
Yeah, we signed someone off of the Chiefs practice squad. I don't remember his name. So we're kind of throwing together a patchwork defensive and offensive front at this point, which is trickling over into a patchwork defensive middle ground. I don't know, linebacking core, whatever you want to call it. It's not that this team is not the same 11-0 team that they were 2 weeks ago. It's that they're the same team minus about 5 starters. And that's a big deal once you start playing teams that are seemingly healthy and aren't going through what we're going through right now.
I do wonder if we're becoming a little bit more predictable, and that could be part of the problem. Ben, right now, among quarterbacks, and this is since 2000, but since 2000, he is completing with the average air yards per his completion are the 3rd lowest in NFL history for qualifying quarterbacks. He's throwing it about 4.5 air yards per play. And that's kind of, we've talked about it, that being a strength. It kind of supplements a run, instead of having to run the ball, you're doing short passes. I get that. But when you have players like Claypool, Juju, when you have a surprisingly great deep threat in James Washington, because I don't understand. He's kind of a smaller guy, but he really makes the deep ball work somehow. But these quick passes might be becoming a little bit more predictable. And really, the quick passes can't work if you continue to drop the ball. The whole point is catch and then run. And the first part of that, we seem to be struggling with.
You talking about that just brought up from that game. I believe it was 4th and 3. It was either 3rd and 3 or 4th and 3. You can correct me. Claypool was not on the field. We had Jalen Samuels on the field running a deep go route on the sideline. And it just brought into question for me, what are we doing with our personnel some of these times? Claypool is one of our best deep ball catchers. He's almost he's like 50-50, if not catching the ball, drawing a PI. And we had Jalen Samuels, a running back, running a go route down the sideline. And the ball brings in another question. The ball wasn't close. It just sailed. I feel like Ben's kind of lost the deep ball a little bit. I'm not sure if it's, throwing 50 plus times a game, which does, that wears down on you. The accuracy. Ben's not young. We talked about this last week. He's not doing QB sneaks on the 1 yard line to score a touchdown because he's old. And I'm not saying Ben's done or he's washed, but I'm saying that the speed's not on the ball. It's definitely falling off when you compare him to some of these young guys, how their balls look coming out of their hand. If you just look at even Tua, even Josh Allen, you look at them and it's just the ball almost has more purpose. Like I haven't lost faith in Ben, but I've lost faith in our receivers to play to this current Ben right now.
It looks like Ben is having trouble driving the ball. And that could be a footing thing. It could be the arm. It's just hard to tell. I'm starting to think it might. His arm is just not the way it used to be. I think there's a reason that when we have these 4th and inches situations and 4th and 1, the reason that we're not sending our 6'5", 250-pound quarterback over the middle is because they don't want to risk injury. He is 38 years old, so I get that. Here, the good news is that we have a couple extra days this week to practice up. We play the 2-10-1 Bengals this week, and they're not with they're not with their starting quarterback Joe Burrow. So this could be a good week for us to regroup, try some new things. Like, I'm not predicting a blowout by any means, but I'm predicting that we are going to experiment and try to find some things that might work for us going forward.
Can we talk about decision making for a second? So another play that stands out is
nah. I'd rather not.
You'd rather not talk about decision making? All right, let's move on.
I'm kidding. No.
Let's move on to talking about the 2nd and 5 with 59 seconds left in the first half. Now, I'm not sure if you remember this play fondly, but I sure remember this play fondly because I texted you as soon as it happened. A lot of emotion. We'll just leave it at that. I kind of want to break this play down a little bit. So it's 2nd and 5. We've got Juju running. Juju's lined up on the left side of the line, so he's on the top of the field. Just to give you a description, he's running like he runs 5 yards out, turns around to catch the ball, right? So this should be pretty routine play. He's coming up the field, then turning left towards the sideline. The ball should be right there. Shouldn't be too hard to make this throw. And Ben kind of floats a little lollipop. There's no zip on this ball. There's nothing on it. He throws it. It's double coverage. You got a guy over the top of Juju, and you got a guy shading under him. The guy shading under him literally just has to put his hands out there, grab it out of the air, and run it to the end zone, which is exactly what he does. Pick 6, making the Steelers go down 10-7 or 9-7 at the half because they missed the extra point. So here's the decision making that I want to talk about. This play, we had a bunch set. We had 3 receivers on the top of the field, one of which was double coverage, meaning the other 2 had single coverage, and then we had a one-on-one matchup on the bottom with Washington. And the throw is to Juju. I know that he's the safety blanket, but you had Jalen Samuels about to break free out of the backfield as a check down. You had Washington in a one-on-one. You could just do that. That's a 50-50 ball. Or you have Juju who, if you are watching this as a quarterback, you have to know this ball is getting picked. You underthrow it, it's picked. You overthrow it, it's picked. The only way this ball is not picked if it is perfectly thrown to Juju, and even then there's a chance it's getting swatted. Like, it's things like this in crunch time. This is you drive here, you go up 14-3 before the half, hope for a stop. This is a game-defining, this is a big drive. And a pick 6, I mean, come on.
Yeah, and it's all situational football. I mean, when it's the 2-minute warning, when it's late in the half, that's situational football. 3rd downs, that's situational football. We went 1 for 10 on 3rd downs. That's why we got a strong prevalence of Jordan Berry out there kicking the ball.
We tied this year's NFL record, or the NFL record for most punts in a first half. So that's pretty dope.
I think it's a mix of drops happening and a mix of Ben worrying about drops happening. So it's leading. I'm still optimistic that these are fixable changes, and that we'll be okay. I mean, if to be in any place where you have to reinvent your team, I feel like 11-2 is a pretty good situation to be to do that.
How much of the indecision and the hesitation from Ben would you say is he's scared that his wide receivers are going to drop the ball? He's
High.
scared. Yeah.
It's high.
So what this comes down to is a lack of faith. Our Super Bowl winning quarterback, all pro Ben Roethlisberger, is scared to throw the ball to his receivers because he doesn't think they're going to catch it. So that's a systemic issue when we're at the NFL level, you got to be catching the ball. Again, we were plagued by the drops this week. We can just run right into that. I don't know what more to say. I can't be a couch quarterback or a couch NFL player. I've not caught an NFL football. I don't know what it takes. I know you can get on the jugs machine and try to catch some balls, but when it comes down to game time, if you're not catching that ball, it doesn't matter. Like I'm at a loss for words when Ebron is still dropping balls that are just ones like routine, like stuff that he was making the 11 wins that we had. Like there is nothing different between the plays that we're calling now versus what we were calling at the beginning, other than sure, we're not running the ball as much, which we can get to that later because apparently Connor's got a quad or a hamstring, so that'll be fun to talk about. But again, we talked about it last week. If you can't catch the ball, get off the field, which is exactly what Tomlin said, which is exactly what he did with the drops, just started benching people. But, it then gets to a point where Ben's not comfortable with these new guys. You can't throw in someone who doesn't practice with because he's not going to know their route running style or what they do. So it's like we're caught between a rock and a hard place. If guys can't catch the ball, Ben's scared to throw the ball to them. What do you do?
This is exactly why we've been relegated. We have a 5% chance now of making the playoffs as the number 1 seed, getting that bye week. We're falling apart at the wrong time. Our remaining 3 weeks are against, we have the Bengals one day, and then we have the Colts the following week, and then we have the Browns in Cleveland to close out the year. All three, could be winnable games, but they're going to be tough. Close out the season against the Browns, we're going to have to start players. We could have been in a position where we could have rested players going into that week, but that's the tough corner we've now put ourselves into.
And that Colts team is no joke. Any team that has the ability to hang 44 points on anyone but the Jets is a good team.
T.Y. Hilton I believe he has like 4 touchdowns the last 2 weeks. So he's getting hot. The Colts might be one of those teams that are getting hot at the right time, and we might be cooling off a bit at the right time.
Their run game's also kind of catching on fire. Jonathan Taylor had 20 carries for 150 yards last week with 2 touchdowns.
That dude's a bum, though. I think that line is opening up holes that, you could do well in. I've seen you eat a hot dog and get winded before.
That line's opening up holes that James Conner could run through them.
Hey man, he got injured. He only played 3 snaps that second half. Conner is good when he's in. That's a really big difference in this team. I hope that he comes back full strength against the Bengals.
Well, as of December 15th, he is sitting on the injured list with a quad.
So looking forward to next week. We kind of just mentioned it. We do play the Bengals on Monday Night Football. But to my recollection, last time we played the Bengals on Monday Night Football was the day that, Shazier spearheaded and, ended up with that injury. So that's kind of traumatic. I was at the game, though. We did pull it off. It was a comeback. The Bengals did blow it in classic fashion.
What did we pull off?
We pulled off a comeback.
Nice.
Hey man, doesn't Ben have 4? Whatever. I'm not getting into this with you. We will have a special guest on next week. Someone that, much to their chagrin. No, I shouldn't say that. They're involved with the Bengals organization, and he'll be able to give some good insights into what happened during the week. Hopefully we pull out a win and, we're able to talk a little bit victoriously. But Josh, I think you have your concerns.
So I love playing devil's advocate. Here we go. My concerns for this game. Once the NFL team kind of starts to stop doing the simple things right is when you get a whole cascade of issues. The Steelers haven't done any of the simple things right. And I'm scared that no matter who we play against, we might not be able to do enough to even get a win. I'm not saying we're going to lose against the Bengals, but I'm saying that any of these lines, if you're into betting at us being 14-point favorites, I don't think that's going to happen. I think this is going to be a lot closer. We're going to get some hernias, going to get some heartache from this one. Do I think we win in the end? Yes. Do I think we're going to blow them out? No, not by a long shot. And I think this is going to be one of those pivotal, one of those turning point games. So like this right here is going to make or break this team. We're either going to figure it out, launch from here into the last 3 weeks of the season or the last 2 weeks after it, or this could be the start of the crash and burn. This is can we put a tourniquet on and can we stop the bleeding now, or is it done?
Oh man, what a metaphor. You're so poetic, Josh.
Thanks,
that engineering degree really made you big bucks.
Yep. Y = mx + b, baby.
Oh man, I'd like to see the slope of that. Never mind. All right. So yeah, no, I'm not that concerned. Like I said, we should use this game as a testing grounds. Maybe we've found out hopefully that the screen game doesn't work very well for us. At least to the running back tight end combo. So maybe get Claypool more involved in the game. Maybe this is the week we see Ray take one to the house and doesn't get called back by some holding call. Hopefully Ben uses this opportunity. Carlos Dunlap is gone. There's key pieces missing on that Bengals defense. Maybe Ben takes a little bit more time and develops, through his progressions and gets some deep balls going. But those are all things that we can talk about and hopefully in a positive light come next weekend's podcast.
Remember last week how you said, I can't wait to see you next week and we're not going to be so depressed and down? I remember that.
Yeah, 2020 has been full of lies. So
don't eat the cake. 11-0.
But the one thing that has been true as from the day that we started this podcast, and this is true, and I'm going to say this, I hope you agree, or at least can build on this, but I'm Brady.
And I'm Josh.
And this is We Could Have Been Doctors, but we decided to do this podcast with you instead.
We'll see you next week.
Hopefully.